British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has presented Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky with the Sir Winston Churchill Leadership Award, drawing comparisons between the two leaders in times of crisis. The award was presented for what Mr. Johnson's Downing Street office described as incredible courage, defiance, and dignity in the face of Russia's invasion. Accepting the award via video link from Kiev, President Zelensky quoted wartime British Premier Churchill as saying that Johnson had not thought of quitting the struggle when the going got tough.
Dear friend Boris, esteemed members of the Churchill Society, dear Ukrainian participants of the Warrior Games, I know you are there as well as dear guests. This is an incredible honor to receive this leadership award today, and while I am receiving it, feels fit to repeat some of the most famous words said by Winston Churchill, which he pronounced on the 8th of May 1945 after the end of World War II in Europe. My dear friends, this is your hour. This is not victory of a party or of any class. It's a victory of the great British nation as a whole. Same as 80 years ago, the factor of personal political leadership has decisive impact. Leadership on the battlefield, leadership in assisting an army which is fighting, leadership in international relations. And while what's at stake in this war is not quite the same, the stakes are high, as they were 80 years ago.
Ставка в цій війні інша, вона не менш висока, ніж 80 років.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who has also congratulated citizens on the day of Ukrainian statehood, the first time the holiday has been marked since being proposed in 2021. Mr. Zelensky introduced the National Day during Independence Day celebrations in 2021 when he said the country was introducing the day of Ukrainian statehood and considers it the starting point to be the year of the founding of Kiev. In a video address posted to Telegram, Mr. Zelensky asked Ukrainians not to give up fighting for their sovereignty. Let's talk now to senior fellow at the Forum of Trans-Regional Studies, Victoria Seredia, who joins us virtually from Berlin in Germany. Good morning to you. Thank you for your time.
Good morning.
Let's start off with this issue of the grain deal and all the things that have come out from it since then. Do you think that this deal will go ahead in spite of so many hiccups and so much pessimism?
Everybody very much hopes so, but what we've seen as soon as this deal was signed, the very same day, there were missiles hitting Odessa port, which is one of three which should be used for grain shipping. And there were a lot of worries that this will stop this deal, and there were discussions that actually this is how Russia behaves quite often, that they are signing certain deals and then they didn't recognize those deals. So there were a lot of worries that this will be again the case. And what immediately happened, even if this deal will be working in the future, it again raises the prices of food, because any crisis with this deal immediately influences markets and markets of grain. So I think this is very important to keep working steadily, and it will take some technical time as well, because Ukrainian side needs to demine ports before they can ship the grain and make sure that this vessels can go without any difficulties. And this is important that in between nothing will be interrupted, no rocket hits will be again on the Ukrainian territory nearby those three designated ports. Why these ports are important? Because these big vessels, which can take 7 times more grain than those which can float through the Danube River. So Ukraine can ship the grain through the Danube River via the passage to Romania and Bulgaria, but it will take much, much longer time. So if this grain needs to be shipped as soon as possible to put some certain relief, then of course all conditions had to be preserved and carefully followed.
Two of Ukraine's staunchest allies since this began in February, Britain and the United States. First, Britain, where you have Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who is on his way out, awarding the Churchill Leadership Award to Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, more like a parting gift. Are you worried that perhaps the incoming leader in the United Kingdom might not be as front and center in support of Ukraine, especially given the economic problems that the United Kingdom itself now faces?
A little bit, maybe, yes, but I just recently discussed this issue with my colleagues in Britain, and they all said that in reality, the politics won't radically change. So maybe some minor changes might be in place, but nothing will radically change in support of Ukraine so far.
Then in the case of the United States, for the first time since this war, this invasion started in February, the U.S. is seeking to talk to Russia on a prisoner swap, getting two of its citizens out and releasing arms dealer Victor Govt to Russia. Do you perhaps think that this may be the first sign that if they are talking, there might be some kind of passageway to some kind of peace talks that will then eventually involve Ukraine and Russia?
Today, greeting the citizens of Ukraine with new holiday, Zelensky said that actually Ukraine is seeking a peace, and it's seeking a peace by every possible means, including not only military but diplomatic. Of course, taking into account the official borders of the country. But I guess it's extremely important to have different platforms where the issue will be discussed, and maybe it will create possibilities for also some diplomatic solutions, like the one we have, a very small step, but in Istanbul with grain shipping.
When you last appeared on this program, I asked you about home, because you are in Berlin, Germany, but I asked you about home and what you're hearing and how you're settling in. Let me again update us on that situation. Is it any better from what you're hearing at home? We hear about attacks, but the situation on the ground perhaps is not quite as dramatic.
Again, it depends on the place where you are located, but now much more locations recently were hit by Russian missiles, including again north of Ukraine, some central Ukrainian parts, and of course the south and eastern parts of Ukraine are under constant attacks with Russian missiles. And just recently, today, there was released a sociological survey of people who left the country and staying as refugees abroad. So 90% of them claimed that they want to return to the country back. But almost half of them said that they won't return at least until situation will be more or less safe. So this new wave of attacks with missile attacks creates a situation where people have to stay longer outside of the country and plan their lives there. Quite soon in August, the new school year will start, for example, in Germany. So a lot of people have to think what to do with kids, whether they should start their school year in Germany and try to adapt to local schools and so on.
When I asked you the last time how you're settling in, because this was some kind of change for you, you did point out then that quite a number of Ukrainians are familiar with Germany, so it isn't as dramatic or as profound a change as you would expect if you were going to a completely unfamiliar new country. But what you said last now about the new school year and the coming winter and all of that, do you see, for some reason that you've already said, some level of settling down in some of these countries that Ukrainians have been forced to go to and accepting that they may not be able to go back home for some time?
Yes, that's true. We had a survey first conducted in March, and then 40% of people who were here in Germany, absolute majority actually, were saying that as soon as possible they will be leaving, as soon as situation will be at least more or less normal. Now we have only 10% of people who say that they would leave immediately. We have 50% undecided because they don't know what is the situation like and what it will be. It's very unpredictable, but 40% already saying that they would stay a year or a bit longer, which means that this process of integration into the society already started. Some of them already found some jobs, and a school year is ahead. And it's a big question because almost every day we hear from news that another school or university was shelled, or same as with medical facilities. So if situation is even more or less peaceful, if you don't have schools, or schools are turned into shelters for the internally displaced people, your kids cannot get a proper schooling, and many people would start thinking that maybe it's better to stay at least another year or half a year in the countries where they are. And in this way, they can ensure proper schooling and proper medical access to elderly who are also with them.
Indeed, indeed. Victoria Sirelia, Senior Fellow, Forum of Transregional Studies, joining us virtually from Berlin in Germany. Thank you for your time this morning, and do continue to stay safe. We hope this crisis comes to an end soon. Thank you.
Thank you.